How are you? Welcome. It's not a facade, right? It's a piece of art. Yeah. Okay, and I was just trying to find the right words to describe this, but really, I know the project because it is installed in England. It's called the Woolbeding Kinetic Glasshouse. It was designed by Heatherwick Studio, presented a number of challenges. Yes. And today, to talk about the project is Charles. You've got an architectural and structural engineering background. And you work for Bellapart, where you are the structural engineering director. Yes. And you have worked on the project yourself. Yes. And you're going to talk to us through the challenges that you faced and how you address them, right? Exactly. Great. You're all mixed up now. Here's your controller. If we can give a round of applause to our next speaker, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. So I said I will be presenting the Woolbeding Kinetic Glasshouse, and I'm Carlos with Bitlloch. So first of all, I'm here on behalf of Bellapart. As some of you might know, Bellapart is a building company, steel and glass mainly, and we specialize in kind of special projects that have some challenges. Our main office is in Catalonia, near the French border, and we have commercial offices in London, Paris, and Miami. So I said the Woolbeding Kinetic Glasshouse was designed by Heatherwick Studio with the help of AUC and Iadorn, and engineering and construction was done by Bellapart. The client was the Woolbeding Charity, and it was built in National Trust land in Midhurst, in the English countryside in south of England, between 2020 and 2021. So when closed, the building is 15 meters high, 20 meters wide, and it has 10 glass-cladded sepals, 15 meters long, that open and close in top of a 3-meter-high fixed base. The building is fully clad with insulating glass units and anodised aluminium profiles and flashings. The insulating glass units have 2 different thicknesses depending on the dimension of the panels. For the front parts, they are thicker than the lateral ones. And some data that I will speak about later, it's the bonded steel glass transom that we have 2 lines of them, and the sepals. So entrance is done by a sheltered area with frameless glass and a bespoke door. And we also have 2 electrically powered trapezoidal windows that allow for cross ventilation. So the first challenge that we have was the mechanical and automation design. So since the building moves, it's classified as a machine, then you have to comply with all the requirements, local requirements. In that case was pre-Brexit Britain, so it was still part of the European Union. And so a study was made over the danger that we can have on the building, and it was decided that it was necessary to be operated by an operator presence control, which is basically a dead man switch. That means that you have a control panel inside the glass house where you have a button, and you have to push that button to open it, and you have to maintain it pushed until it opens totally. If you stop pushing the button in any moment, the building stops. So therefore, the movement of the building had to be kept at a low pace, so we have a not very high speed, especially because if it stops at any moment, the mechanisms need to be able to take all the inertia-induced forces that you have. So at the end, it takes 4 minutes to open and 4 minutes to close. So it is activated by 10 hydraulic cylinders. You see one of them here. And the hydraulic cylinders need a lot of things to work, need sensors, need cables, pipes. Everything is concealed in the structure. And it also needs a plant room, so a pump and all electrical and mechanical devices that are put 60 meters away from the glass house into a kind of an agricultural building. and it has a trench that hides all the piping to the glass house. So the second challenge was weather tightness. So this glass house is a heated glass house. That means that we could not have more than 3 air changes per hour to make the glass house work, so the heating work, and it has to be complete watertight. To allow it for open and close and to allow for all the tolerances and deformations that we need to have, we decided to use a pneumatic inflatable gasket system so that we can close that 10 millimeter, or 100 millimeters thick joint and accept the tolerances of plus minus 15 millimeters and deflection of 5 millimeters. And in the top of it, so where the 10 sepals meet, we could not use that system because it's very sharp and it's very pointy. So what we did was, once all the building was built and we had all the real dimensions, we measured it, and we did 10 bespoke EPDM forms to close it. So we tested the system on prototype in our premises and on site, and yeah, everything was achieved. Then the last challenge is the structural verification. As always, structural verification is focused on security, but in this case was the ultimate limit state loads and fatigue. So since we have a building that moves and can stop at any moment, we needed to be sure that all the ultimate limit state loads were resisted by the building in any position. So prior to our involvement in the project, wind tunnel test was done with a lot of different positions. We used all these positions, most of them were checked into a single sepal model, so to check that all the mechanisms were able to resist all the forces. And then we did 5 models of the whole building, so open, just to check everything together, and also the fixed base. So we had the open position, and then 3 different closed positions, because the path of forces are quite different when you close, so just before game closing and after closing. And also an accidental model was done with 1 sepal opened, which covered a more function that could happen into the building. The other part of the structural verification is the fatigue verification. So we have a very complex geometry. We have edges all the way. We have sharp, complicated nodes. We had to use advanced film software, because in fatigue verification, even if you have not a lot of cycles, you need to have a tight control of the hotspots. So the hotspots is where all the stress concentration happens. So when you're checking fatigue, you cannot assume that you have redistribution of stresses, so you do not have classification in any way. And therefore, you need to really understand or control which is the value that you will have in these stress concentration points. And furthermore, if you have geometry like this, you cannot do what is normally done. So you have normal stresses and tangential stresses, and you check them separately and then put them together. This would not work here. So the standards, the European standards, also tell you, okay, if you have this situation, use the principal stresses. So that's what we did. And when you're using principal stresses, you must be careful with the vectors, just to understand which is the stresses that you have to check. For instance, in this place, we checked minimum principal stress against minimum principal stress, because there was no inversion in this point. And the data that the audience might find interesting are the glass retaining systems. Mainly for the building, it's a commercial capped stick system, normal, fine in the industry. We checked some of it under fatigue loading. We had some patch fittings in some joints, but what's more interesting is the structural joint that we have in the sepal. So it is a structural joint, silicon joint, that it's fatigue loaded. We could do this with a very thin one because we had mechanical rotation in other parts of the glass, so the glass would not fall in the case that this silicone joint stops working. And a close collaboration with the Sika team was instrumental to achieve this design. Then going into fabrication, as said, we have bespoke edgy tubes, sharp angles, complex nodes. This is complicated to fabricate. But furthermore, we have a fatigue-loaded structure, so we needed full penetration butt welds. We had to polish the edges, not in the way that it's recommended for fatigue, and very tight tolerances, because it's a machine, so we have to do it very precisely. And when you have full penetration butt welds, you might experience heat deformation because you are applying a lot of heat into the element. So what we did was to pre-assemble when welding, so kind of doing parts of the building and welding parts of the building like we were welding on site. So you see here a part of the fixed base with all the props and templates that we needed. And we put it the bottom ring that we say and the top ring. And the diagonals have a bolted joint that was already bolted when we did that. Put it, all of it there, and then weld it. And afterwards, we debolted it, and no permanent deformation was observed. Some of the templates were also very precise. This is the base of the sepal, where we had to be very careful about the distances for the hinges of the building. And also here we have a very thick plate, which is 80 millimeters thick, welded to very thin ones, or very thin, not that thick ones, which is 10 millimeters, which were 10 millimeters. So we had residual stresses that were, we got rid of them by an annealing process. So once everything was welded, we annealed it to get rid of those stresses. And then going into construction. During construction, we did a structural modeling of all the process to check how we should build it and which were the expected deformations. We did close monitoring to check that all those deformations were as expected and all our assumptions were correct. And also for positioning all the things. An example of the operations, the kind of operations that we had to do, is the sepals operations. So we had one sepal welded in our factory with, which was then deassembled into from the diverse parts that it has, and then it was reassembled on site. This was done because we were in the middle of the English countryside, so we have very narrow and curvy roads, so a large transport was not possible. And then after assembling everything on site, we lifted it, so put it all the glasses that we could and all the flashings, we lifted it and put it on the top of the fixed base, but we could not finally fix each of them individually because each of the sepals was a bit different, and also they were deformations when we were putting everything on top of the fixed base. So we had to put all the sepals there with provisional fixings, then do the final positioning of all of them. And when all of them were positioned, then we did the final fixing, retire the provisional fixing, and do the rest of the cladding. Conclusion. We had one-of-a-kind building machine hybrid, so we need to question every aspect of the things that we normally do, and that meant a significant amount of effort, time, and thought, and also it was built in difficult times, so during 2020 and 2021, where we have COVID and also Brexit, which make everything more difficult. And to finish, I will show you a bit. Oh. Should be a video. Yeah. Is there any way to click on? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So this is the real speed in where it opens. This is a video done by the architect, where it shows the different things that the architect wanted to show. Okay, so that's all for me. Thank you for your attention.